Hey everybody, it's your friend and your guy and your favorite mispronouncer of made-up words, Gardiner. So it's been a minute since we talked about Nextcloud, hasn't it? I guess it's been a few minutes. But no matter, Nextcloud is still my preferred way to manage my files on my own personal cloud. But it's also become the way that my company has been collaborating for the last year and a half. Between writers, editors, and managing the new channels that we're launching, Nextcloud has become an absolute necessity for us. Over the last few years, Nextcloud has grown in functionality and features, and each improvement has become a necessity for my team. But this next release is the most excited that I've been for Nextcloud in quite a long time. But before we get into the video, I need to take a moment and thank one of my favorite all-time sponsors of the channel, Linode. Linode offers a cloud experience like no other, making cloud computing accessible to everyone. And don't for a second think that you need to be a sysadmin to get started with cloud hosting. You can deploy a myriad of your favorite services using their curated list of one-click apps. Want to deploy a Nextcloud instance with block or even object storage? Doing so couldn't be simpler with Linode, and they even have video guides on how to do that on their YouTube channel. Plus, their state-of-the-art tools give you root-level control over your cloud infrastructure, and as your workload changes and grows, they've got you covered with the ability to scale your Linode in place. And not only does Linode have the best-in-class documentation to help you tackle any project, they also have responsive and knowledgeable 24/7 customer support via phone or ticket. Use my link below, linode.com/GB, and get a 60-day $100 credit to get you started for free. And thank you to my friends at Linode for sponsoring this video. So without further ado, let's talk about Nextcloud Hub 24, its new features and why I think they're so exciting. First up is Files. Files is like the core of Nextcloud, and it has seen a few backend improvements. First is a new enterprise API that allows your files to be indexed by a third-party search tool. If I have one huge complaint about Nextcloud, it's search. This means that it should be possible for you to use a much more powerful search tool to index your files. And that's an exciting prospect for me personally. But there are also now improved sharing permissions which allow users to grant edit, delete, and upload permission in shared folders. Hopefully this will solve the issue that I've been facing where one of my writers will upload a script to Nextcloud Deck that I can't actually edit, resulting in me having to duplicate the file from my account and then share the duplicated file back on Deck. It's kind of a convoluted workaround. Hopefully this solves that issue. Next, Nextcloud Talk. The new Nextcloud Talk adds a flurry of new features, including message reactions, which makes Nextcloud Talk a step closer to other chat clients. A media tab, which gives user a means of finding any media that has been sent in a conversation. Desktop client integration, which allows you to reply to messages and answer calls. The mobile client can now select audio output devices, which is a nice to have feature. And you can now share system audio during screen sharing while on a call in Chrome. Nextcloud Talk is one of those apps that I feel needs the most work, and it's great to see here that it's actually getting desktop notifications. That was one of the most obnoxious missing features from Nextcloud Talk, so it's great to see that here. Next, we have Nextcloud Text. So one of my favorite features or applications on Nextcloud is actually the built-in text editor, Nextcloud Text. It's a simple what you see is what you get markdown editor. It's actually what I use to write these scripts. It's super powerful too, allowing collaborative markdown editing. And this release offers a few long-awaited features, like tables, info boxes, direct picture upload, finally, and emoji auto-completion. Now, if they could only add a word count feature and a raw markdown viewer, it would be my absolute favorite markdown editor, bar none. Before we continue on to the two coolest new additions to Nextcloud, I want to ask, are you enjoying this video? Consider hitting that like button and subscribe button. I'm aiming for 100,000 subscribers by summer, and with your help, I think we can get there. And thank you. All right, next up, 4 times less database load. Now, this release of Nextcloud is the culmination of many performance and optimization changes with the aim to scale Nextcloud to larger instances and improve the overall experience of using Nextcloud. A few of the most exciting optimizations are more efficient activity storage and the ability to store activities in a separate database. Preview generation scaling can now be offloaded to a microservice. Improved thumbnail caching, improved WebDAV performance, which honestly was dreadfully slow before this update, and smart background job scheduling to run expensive operations outside of peak hours. Now, according to the press release, quote, many of these changes lower both the load on servers and increase the responsiveness for users, like the smarter handling of file system access that can reduce the database queries for a folder view by 75%. Another improvement is to allow admins to configure when maintenance background jobs are run, so that they run at quiet times instead of during peak activity hours. And avatars are no longer generated in many different sizes, but in only 2, making caching easier and more efficient. And finally, we have user migration. Now, the goal of Nextcloud is to, quote, give you as an individual or business digital sovereignty. That is, to put you in control of your data. And as such, they've added many new features to facilitate that. And one of my favorites is actually user migration. Now, some people might be thinking, well, hey, what's the big deal about user migration? How often is that actually going to be handy? It's actually really cool. Let's say that you originally deployed your Nextcloud on a Raspberry Pi, but after a few years you've outgrown your Pi and you want to upgrade to something like a NAS or maybe even a Linode instance. It used to be a bit of a chore to migrate, especially your user data. But now you can do that without any hassle. The way this works is pretty simple, quote, user migration allows you to export your data from Nextcloud into a single archive and import it into another Nextcloud instance. This includes user and profile settings and data from the groupware and files apps like calendar, email settings, comments, favorites, and more. And an API allows any app to add support for migration, enabling users to take all of their data with them. This is absolutely fantastic, and I would really like to see other apps like Passwords support the export here. I know that Passwords has its own data export thing, but it honestly doesn't feel particularly good. And if there's a native Nextcloud export tool, I'd like to see as many apps as possible use this feature. In my personal time with Nextcloud, this feature, user exports, would have been so handy on at least 2 occasions, and it's great to see that there's finally something like this here. Well, those are some of the most interesting new features in Nextcloud 24. One thing that I would love to see in the future from Nextcloud is a file creation tool in Deck. For example, to create this script, I actually went into Deck, added a new card, and then uploaded an empty markdown file, which I then needed to rename. I would love to have the existing new file creation menu inside the attachments tab on Deck. That would save me just a little bit of time every time I went to make a new script. And that time would add up over months and years even. But I would love to know what you think. What's your favorite new feature? Did I miss one? What's one feature that you would love to see? Sound off in the comments. Now, I want to thank Mitchell Valentino for his continued top-tier support on Patreon. It's because of people like Mitchell and the rest of the folks who pledge their support that I'm able to continue growing and evolving this show. So thank you. If you believe in the work that I'm doing, you can join the 100+ other Linux warriors with the links below. And thank you. And make sure that you get subscribed so you don't miss any of the cool stuff that we're doing here on the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.